A humble beginning. Catherine Wilson never imagined she would one day own a luxury boutique chain like Bliss Couture. Born and raised in a small town in the Midwest, her life was far from the glamour and glitz associated with high-end fashion. Her mother worked as a school teacher, and her father ran a modest hardware store. Money was tight, but their home was rich in love, discipline, and unshakable values. Catherine learned early on that the world didn't owe her anything. If she wanted something, she would have to work for it. As a child, Catherine had always been captivated by fashion. She would flip through worn-out magazines her mother borrowed from the local library, dreaming of creating her own clothing line someday. However, the harsh realities of life often overshadowed her ambitions. Instead of sketching designs, she spent her teenage years helping her father at the hardware store after school, stocking shelves, and learning the importance of customer service. When Catherine graduated high school, she received a scholarship to a local college, where she majored in business administration. Her dreams of breaking into the fashion industry still lingered in the back of her mind, but practicality dictated her choices. She studied hard, graduated with honors, and landed a job as an assistant manager at a retail store in the city. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. In her free time, Catherine began designing accessories, scarves, handbags, and costume jewelry. She would sew and assemble them by hand in her tiny apartment, pouring her heart into every piece. She sold these items at weekend markets, slowly building a reputation for her creativity and craftsmanship. People loved her work, and word spread. One fateful day, Catherine's designs caught the attention of a local boutique owner who offered her the chance to showcase her accessories in their store. It was a small step, but it changed everything. Catherine's pieces sold out within weeks, and she realized there was a real demand for her work. Encouraged by the response, she quit her retail job and threw herself into her craft full-time. Years of hard work, persistence, and sacrifice eventually paid off. Catherine launched her own brand, Bliss Couture, starting with a single boutique in the heart of the city. Her vision was simple: to create high-quality, affordable luxury for women who wanted to feel confident and beautiful. Her designs resonated with customers, and the brand grew rapidly. Soon, Bliss Couture expanded into multiple locations across the country, each store exuding elegance and sophistication. Despite her success, Catherine remained grounded. She understood the struggles of her customers, especially women who often faced subtle biases and unfair treatment in society. She vowed to build a brand that celebrated inclusivity and diversity, hiring staff from all walks of life and treating them like family. One rainy afternoon, as Catherine sat in her office overlooking the city skyline, she had an idea. She realized she hadn't visited her stores in a long time, not as the owner, but as a customer. She wanted to experience firsthand what it was like to shop at Bliss Couture without the employees knowing who she was. The decision wasn't just about curiosity, it was about integrity. Catherine believed in accountability, and she wanted to ensure that her staff embodied the values of kindness, respect, and professionalism that she had built the brand upon. And so, Catherine planned her incognito visit. She dressed in the most unassuming outfit she could find: a pair of faded jeans, a simple sweater, and well-worn sneakers. She skipped the makeup and tied her curly hair back into a loose ponytail. With her casual attire and modest demeanor, she looked nothing like the powerful businesswoman who owned a multi-million-dollar company. Her destination was one of Bliss Couture's flagship stores, located in an affluent part of the city. The store was known for its luxurious interior, complete with crystal chandeliers, plush carpets, and sleek display cases. Catherine had high hopes for what she would find, but she also knew that not everything might go as planned. As she walked through the rain-soaked streets and approached the boutique, Catherine felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. She pushed open the glass door, the soft chime announcing her arrival. The store was just as beautiful as she remembered. Racks of elegant dresses lined the walls, and gleaming shelves displayed accessories that sparkled under the warm lighting. Catherine's eyes immediately fell on a collection of silk scarves near the entrance. They were her designs, part of a new collection inspired by her travels to Europe. She felt a swell of pride as she reached out to touch one of the scarves, marveling at the intricate patterns and fine craftsmanship. But her moment of admiration was abruptly interrupted. "Excuse me, can I help you?" The sharp tone of the voice startled Catherine. She turned to see a sales associate standing a few feet away, her arms crossed and her expression cold. For a moment, Catherine thought the woman was addressing someone else, but the sales associate's piercing gaze was fixed squarely on her. Catherine managed a polite smile. "I was just admiring these scarves. They're beautiful." The associate's eyes narrowed. "They're expensive," she said flatly. Catherine blinked, caught off guard by the comment. "I'm sure they are. I'd still like to take a closer look." The associate hesitated for a moment, then stepped closer, her demeanor growing even colder. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" she asked, her voice dripping with condescension. Catherine felt her chest tighten. She had encountered subtle prejudices before, but something about this moment felt particularly harsh. "I believe I am," she replied calmly. The sales associate's gaze swept over Catherine's casual outfit, her sneakers, her lack of makeup. She let out a small dismissive laugh. "Well, if you're looking for something more affordable, there's a department store down the street. This isn't exactly—" She paused, her lip curling slightly. "Your kind of store." Catherine stared at the woman, her heart sinking. She had hoped for better from her employees, but this was worse than she had feared. Still, she maintained her composure. "I'd still like to look around, if that's all right." The associate sighed, clearly annoyed. "Suit yourself," she said, turning on her heel and walking away. As Catherine continued to browse the store, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The sales associate hovered nearby, her disapproval evident in every glance she threw in Catherine's direction. Catherine felt a mix of anger and disappointment. This wasn't just about her. It was about the countless customers who might have faced similar treatment. She knew she had to address the situation, but she decided to wait until the right moment. Little did the sales associate know, the woman she had just dismissed so callously was not only a customer but the owner of the very store she worked in, and Catherine had every intention of setting things right. The encounter escalates. Catherine continued to walk through the boutique, carefully observing the displays and the atmosphere. The store was undeniably beautiful. Polished marble floors, gold-accented racks, and soothing background music created an ambience of sophistication. But the behavior of the sales associate was anything but elegant. Catherine's heart ached as she thought about how this interaction might feel to someone else, someone who didn't have the confidence or resources to stand up to such blatant condescension. She moved toward the section displaying evening gowns. Each piece was a work of art, designed with meticulous attention to detail. These were dresses that could make any woman feel like royalty. Catherine gently ran her fingers over the fabric of a midnight blue gown adorned with delicate beadwork, marveling at the craftsmanship. "Excuse me." The sharp voice broke her reverie. She turned to find the same sales associate glaring at her. "I told you, these items are very expensive," the woman said, her tone now laced with irritation. Catherine's eyebrows lifted slightly. She had remained calm during their earlier exchange, but now the associate's rudeness was becoming difficult to ignore. "I understand that," Catherine replied, her voice steady, "but I'd still like to take a closer look." The associate let out an exaggerated sigh. "Look, I don't mean to be rude, but we don't usually let people just linger around here unless they're serious about buying something. We have a certain clientele, and I have to focus on customers who actually—" She hesitated, her eyes sweeping over Catherine's casual attire again. "Who are here to shop." Catherine felt a mix of anger and sadness swell in her chest. She knew what the woman was implying without needing to hear the rest of the sentence. "Are you suggesting that I don't belong here?" Catherine asked, her tone calm but firm. The associate crossed her arms and raised an eyebrow. I'm just saying this store caters to a very exclusive clientele. We have certain standards, and I don't want to waste your time. Or mine. Catherine stared at the woman, momentarily speechless. It wasn't the first time she'd faced assumptions based on her appearance or the color of her skin, but this was different. This wasn't a random encounter on the street. This was happening in her own store, a space she had worked so hard to create as welcoming and inclusive for everyone. I see, Catherine said finally, keeping her composure. And what makes you think I'm not part of your so-called exclusive clientele? The associate let out a sarcastic laugh. I mean, come on. It's obvious. She gestured vaguely at Catherine's outfit. You don't exactly scream luxury, do you? Before Catherine could respond, another voice cut through the tension. Excuse me, miss. Do you mind if I take a look at that dress? Both Catherine and the associate turned to see another customer, a tall, elegant woman in her mid-40s, dressed in a tailored blazer and carrying a designer handbag. Her hair was perfectly styled, and her jewelry sparkled under the store's lights. The sales associate's demeanor shifted instantly. Her posture straightened, and her face lit up with a forced smile. Of course, Mom, she said, her tone suddenly warm and accommodating. She stepped past Catherine without a second glance, taking the blue gown off the rack and holding it up for the other woman. Catherine watched the exchange, her heart sinking further. The contrast in treatment was glaring, and it was clear that the associate judged her worth based solely on appearances. As the other customer admired the gown, Catherine decided to step away. She wandered toward the accessories section, trying to clear her mind. But the incident had left a bitter taste in her mouth. She couldn't simply ignore what had happened. Her thoughts were interrupted when she noticed a young girl, no older than 8 or 9, standing near a display of handbags. The girl's eyes sparkled as she gazed at a bright red purse adorned with gold accents. Catherine smiled, recognizing the look of pure admiration that she herself had once had as a child. The girl's mother, who was standing nearby, reached out and gently pulled her daughter's hand away from the display. Don't touch that, sweetie, the mother said softly. It's too expensive. Catherine's heart went out to them. She walked over and crouched down so she was at the girl's eye level. That's a beautiful bag, isn't it? She said warmly. The little girl nodded, her eyes wide. It's so pretty, she whispered. Catherine smiled and reached for the bag, lifting it carefully from the display. Would you like to hold it? The girl hesitated, looking up at her mother for permission. The mother seemed surprised but nodded. Go ahead, sweetheart, she said. The girl gently took the bag, her face lighting up with pure joy. It's so shiny, she exclaimed, turning it over in her hands. Catherine chuckled. It is. You have good taste. As she spoke, the sales associate appeared again, her expression hardening as she saw Catherine interacting with the customers. Is there a problem here? She asked, her voice cold. Catherine stood, meeting the associate's gaze. No problem at all, she said evenly. The associate glanced at the mother and daughter, then back at Catherine. Well, if you're done playing with the merchandise, I'd appreciate it if you left it for paying customers, she said pointedly. Catherine felt a surge of anger, but kept her voice calm. I was just admiring the craftsmanship. Isn't that what this store is for? The associate's lips tightened, but before she could respond, the mother spoke up. Actually, I was just about to ask if this bag comes in other colors, she said, her tone polite but firm. The associate hesitated, clearly annoyed. I'll check in the back, she muttered, turning on her heel and walking away. As soon as the associate was out of earshot, the mother turned to Catherine. Thank you for that, she said quietly. I've been in stores like this before, and I know how some people can be. Catherine nodded, understanding all too well. It's no problem. Everyone deserves to feel welcome, especially here. The mother gave her a curious look but didn't press further. Catherine watched as the little girl handed the bag back, her face still glowing with excitement. By the time Catherine left the accessories section, Her mind was made up. She couldn't let the behavior of that sales associate go unaddressed. But she also knew that the time to reveal her true identity hadn't come yet. There was more to observe, and Catherine intended to gather all the information she needed before taking action. What the associate didn't realize was that the woman she had so carelessly dismissed wasn't just a casual shopper. She was the owner of Bliss Couture, and tomorrow, the store and the associate would face a reckoning they wouldn't soon forget. The day of reckoning. The next morning, Catherine woke up early, her mind still replaying the events of the previous day. She had spent the evening reflecting on how she wanted to handle the situation. It wasn't just about the rude sales associate. It was about the deeper issue of how her brand's values were, or weren't, being upheld by the people representing it. As she sipped her coffee, Catherine drafted a plan. She decided that she wouldn't act rashly or in anger. Instead, she would use the opportunity to make a lasting impression, not just on the employee who had treated her poorly, but on the entire staff. Catherine chose her outfit carefully. Today, she would arrive not as an anonymous customer, but as the owner of Bliss Couture. She selected a tailored white suit paired with a gold silk blouse, elegant yet understated. She accessorized with a delicate diamond necklace and earrings, her hair styled in soft waves. Her look exuded authority and grace. By mid-morning, she was on her way to the store. This time, her arrival wouldn't go unnoticed. When Catherine stepped into the boutique, the atmosphere felt different. The store was already bustling with a few early shoppers, and the staff seemed busy tending to their needs. The same sales associate from the day before was at the counter, arranging some receipts. Catherine noticed her immediately and felt a flicker of tension, but she reminded herself to stay composed. The associate glanced up and did a double take when she saw Catherine. Her expression shifted from indifference to something resembling confusion. Catherine's appearance now was a stark contrast to the casual attire she had worn the day before. "Good morning," Catherine said, her voice calm but commanding. The associate hesitated, then offered a polite smile, clearly unsure of who she was dealing with. "Good morning. Can I help you with something?" "Yes, I believe you can," Catherine replied. She didn't elaborate, allowing the moment to hang in the air. Before the associate could respond, another employee approached, a young man who appeared to be in his early 20s. He greeted Catherine with genuine warmth. "Good morning. Welcome to Bliss Couture. My name is Daniel. Is there anything I can assist you with today?" Catherine smiled at him, appreciating his professionalism. "Thank you, Daniel. I'm here to speak with your store manager. Could you let them know that Catherine Wilson has arrived?" Daniel's eyes widened slightly as recognition dawned. "Oh, of course, Ms. Wilson. Right away." He turned and hurried toward the back office. The associate at the counter froze, her face draining of color. Catherine Wilson," she stammered. "That's correct," Catherine said, her tone measured. She could see the dawning realization in the woman's eyes, but she didn't dwell on it. Moments later, the store manager, a well-dressed woman in her late 30s named Angela, emerged from the back office. She looked both surprised and nervous as she approached Catherine. "Ms. Wilson, what an honor to have you here," Angela said, extending her hand. "I wasn't expecting your visit today." Catherine shook her hand firmly. "I like to keep my visits unannounced," she said. "It helps me see things as they really are." Angela nodded, clearly unsure how to respond. "Of course. Is there something specific you'd like to discuss?" "Yes, but let's gather the staff first. I think it's important that everyone hears what I have to say." The staff assembled quickly in the middle of the store. Some looked curious, others nervous, and one or two even appeared excited. The associate from the day before stood near the back, trying to blend into the group. Catherine began by introducing herself, though most of the employees already knew who she was. She spoke about the journey of building Bliss Couture, her vision for the brand, and the values that were supposed to define it: inclusivity, respect, and exceptional customer service. I created Bliss Couture not just as a fashion brand, Catherine said, her voice steady but firm, but as a space where every customer, regardless of their background, appearance, or status, feels valued and respected. Yesterday, I visited this store as a regular customer. What I experienced didn't align with those values. She paused, letting her words sink in. The room was silent, the staff hanging on her every word. I'm not here to embarrass anyone, she continued, but I am here to ensure that Bliss Couture remains a brand we can all be proud of. That starts with accountability. Catherine turned her gaze to the associate from the previous day. Would you like to explain your actions from yesterday? She asked, her tone calm but firm. The woman's face turned bright red. She looked down at her shoes, fumbling for words. I didn't know who you were, she mumbled. That's exactly the point, Catherine said. You didn't know who I was, but that shouldn't matter. Every customer deserves to be treated with respect and dignity, regardless of how they're dressed or who you think they might be. The associate nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I'm so sorry, Ms. Wilson. I was wrong, and I'll do better. I promise. Catherine studied her for a moment, then gave a small nod. I appreciate your apology, and I hope you mean it. But this isn't just about one person's actions. It's about creating a culture where this kind of behavior doesn't happen in the first place. She turned back to the rest of the staff. Starting today, we're implementing new training sessions focused on customer service and unconscious bias. Every employee, from sales associates to managers, will be required to participate. We're also introducing a mystery shopper program to ensure that every store upholds our values consistently. The staff murmured in agreement, nodding their heads. And one more thing, Catherine added. If any customer ever feels disrespected or unwelcome in one of my stores, I want to hear about it personally. My team will provide you with a direct line of communication to me. She took a step back, letting the weight of her words settle over the group. I built this brand from nothing, and I take its reputation very seriously. But more than that, I care about the people who walk through these doors. Let's make sure they feel that. After the meeting, Catherine spent time speaking individually with the staff. She made a point to compliment those who had shown professionalism and kindness, including Daniel, whose genuine warmth had left a positive impression. Before leaving, Catherine approached the sales associate who had treated her poorly. I believe in second chances, Catherine said. Use this opportunity to prove that you can grow from this experience. The woman nodded, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I won't let you down. As Catherine walked out of the boutique, she felt a sense of satisfaction. The events of the past 2 days had been difficult, but they had also been a chance to reaffirm her commitment to the values that mattered most. Bliss Couture wasn't just about luxury fashion. It was about empowering people and creating a space where everyone felt they belonged. And Catherine was determined to keep it that way. Lessons in redemption. The days following Catherine's visit were filled with a whirlwind of change. Word of her unannounced visit spread throughout the company, creating a ripple effect that reached far beyond the boutique where the incident occurred. Employees across all Bliss Couture locations were reminded of the brand's core values, and Catherine's emphasis on accountability left a lasting impression. For Catherine, the work was far from over. She had made promises during her visit, promises of training, cultural reform, and personal accessibility for customer complaints. Now, it was time to deliver. She assembled her leadership team for an urgent meeting, laying out her vision for a new company-wide initiative. We need to address this head-on, Catherine said as she stood at the head of the sleek conference table, her team listening intently. This isn't just about one associate's mistake. It's about creating a culture where that mistake isn't possible. That means we need to invest in our people, in their growth, and in their understanding of what we stand for. One of her senior managers, a tall man with salt and pepper hair named James, leaned forward. I agree completely, Catherine. But implementing this on a large scale will take time. What are our immediate steps? Catherine nodded. We'll start with a three-phase plan. First, we'll roll out mandatory customer service training for all employees. Not the generic kind. This will be tailored to our brand, emphasizing empathy, respect, and inclusivity. Second, we'll launch a series of workshops on unconscious bias, led by experts in the field. And third, we'll create a customer feedback system that allows us to address issues in real time. The team exchanged approving glances, but Catherine wasn't finished. I also want to revisit our hiring practices, she added. We need to ensure that the people we bring into this company align with our values from day one. It's not enough to hire people who can sell a product. We need people who can embody what Bliss Couture represents. The next few weeks were transformative. The training sessions were intense but eye-opening, challenging employees to confront their assumptions and reflect on how they treated others. Catherine made it a point to attend the first session herself, sitting among the staff as an equal participant. During one of the workshops, the same sales associate who had treated Catherine poorly raised her hand. Her name was Melissa, and she had been with the company for just under a year. "I'd like to say something," Melissa said, her voice shaky but determined. The room grew quiet as all eyes turned to her. "I'd spent a lot of time thinking about what happened that day," Melissa began, "and I've realized something. The way I treated Ms. Wilson wasn't just unprofessional. It was wrong on a much deeper level. I made assumptions about her based on nothing more than her appearance, and that's not who I want to be." Catherine watched Melissa closely, her expression unreadable. "I grew up in a small town where people didn't always treat each other kindly," Melissa continued. "I think I'd picked up some of those bad habits without even realizing it. But that's not an excuse. I'm learning now that being part of a company like this means holding myself to a higher standard, and I want to do better. I'm sorry, not just to Ms. Wilson, but to anyone I've ever made feel the way she felt that day." The room was silent for a moment, and then one of the other employees began to clap. Soon, the entire room joined in, the applause filling the space with a sense of shared growth and understanding. Catherine felt a swell of pride, not just for Melissa's courage in admitting her mistake, but for the willingness of the entire team to support one another through the process of change. Meanwhile, Catherine's direct involvement in the reform efforts didn't go unnoticed by her customers. Bliss Couture's social media accounts lit up with comments from people who admired her leadership and integrity. Stories began to surface of other customers who had experienced similar treatment in the past, but who now felt hopeful about the changes taking place. One such customer, a woman named Aisha, reached out to Catherine directly through the feedback system. "Dear Ms. Wilson," Aisha wrote, "I want to thank you for addressing an issue that so many of us face, but rarely get to see acknowledged. I had a similar experience at one of your stores last year, and it left me feeling like I didn't belong in a space that should have welcomed me. Hearing about the steps you're taking to change that means more than you'll ever know. I look forward to shopping at Bliss Couture again, knowing it's a place where people like me are valued." Catherine responded personally, thanking Aisha for her honesty and inviting her to a private tour of the company's flagship store. It was moments like these that reminded Catherine why she had started Bliss Couture in the first place, not just to sell beautiful clothing, but to create something that made people feel seen, appreciated, and empowered. As the months passed, the changes Catherine implemented began to bear fruit. Sales at Bliss Couture stores increased, not just because of the quality of the products, but because of the exceptional service customers now received. Employees reported feeling more connected to the brand's mission, and the company's culture grew stronger than ever. Melissa, in particular, became a shining example of redemption. She worked harder than anyone to improve, volunteering to lead training sessions for new hires and mentoring junior staff. Catherine noticed her efforts and decided to reward her commitment. One afternoon, Catherine called Melissa into her office. "Melissa, I've been watching you closely these past few months," Catherine said as Melissa sat nervously across from her. Melissa nodded, her hands folded in her lap. "I hope I've been doing better, Ms. Wilson." "You have," Catherine said with a smile. "In fact, you've done more than just improve. You've set an example for the entire team. That's why I'd like to offer you a promotion to senior sales associate." Melissa's eyes widened in disbelief. "A promotion? I don't know what to say." "Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I promise I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Catherine said warmly. "You've shown me that mistakes don't define us. It's how we choose to grow from them that matters." As Catherine reflected on the journey Bliss Kuchar had taken, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The incident that had initially left her feeling disappointed had turned into an opportunity to reinforce her brand's values and inspire change. Bliss Kuchar wasn't perfect, no company ever was, but it was moving in the right direction. And Catherine knew that as long as she stayed true to her vision, the brand would continue to thrive. Building a legacy. Months after the transformative changes at Bliss Kuchar, the brand was flourishing in ways Catherine had only dreamed of. The incident at the boutique had been a catalyst for growth, not just for the company, but for Catherine herself. She realized that leadership wasn't just about making decisions. It was about setting an example, inspiring others, and building a legacy rooted in values that mattered. But Catherine wasn't one to rest on her laurels. While Bliss Kuchar's stores were performing better than ever, she knew there was more work to do. The world was constantly changing, and if the brand wanted to remain relevant and meaningful, it had to evolve. Catherine decided to expand her mission beyond the walls of her boutiques. One crisp autumn morning, Catherine called an all-hands meeting at the company's headquarters. The large conference room buzzed with anticipation as employees, from senior executives to junior staff, gathered to hear what she had to say. Catherine stood at the front of the room, her presence commanding yet approachable. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice calm but filled with purpose. "As you all know, the past few months have been a period of reflection and growth for Bliss Kuchar. We've come a long way in addressing the challenges we faced, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished together. But today, I want to talk about the future." She paused, letting her words settle. The room was silent, every eye fixed on her. "Bliss Kuchar is more than a fashion brand," Catherine continued. "It's a platform to empower, inspire, and uplift people. And I believe we can use that platform to make a difference in the world, beyond just selling beautiful clothes." A murmur of curiosity rippled through the room. Catherine smiled, sensing their intrigue. "That's why I'm excited to announce the launch of the Bliss Foundation," she said, her voice rising with enthusiasm. "This foundation will focus on 3 key initiatives: supporting underprivileged communities, empowering women entrepreneurs, and promoting diversity in the fashion industry." The room erupted into applause, and Catherine waited for it to subside before continuing. "Our first project will be opening a series of vocational training centers in underserved neighborhoods," she explained. "These centers will offer free courses in sewing, design, and retail management, providing people with the skills they need to build sustainable careers in fashion and beyond. And I want all of you to be a part of it." The announcement sparked a wave of excitement and inspiration throughout the company. Employees who had once seen their roles as merely jobs now felt a deeper sense of purpose. Teams from different departments came together to brainstorm ideas for the foundation's initiatives, and the office buzzed with a renewed energy. Melissa, the sales associate who had once been at the center of controversy, threw herself into the project with particular zeal. She volunteered to lead a mentorship program for trainees at the vocational centers, sharing her story as a testament to the power of growth and redemption. "I want people to know that it's never too late to change," Melissa said during a planning meeting. "If I can inspire just one person to believe in themselves, then I'll feel like I've done something meaningful." Catherine couldn't have been prouder. Watching Melissa transform into a leader within the company was a reminder of why she had given her a second chance. The first Bliss Vocational Center opened 6 months later in a revitalized community center on the outskirts of the city. Catherine attended the grand opening, cutting the ribbon in front of a crowd of community leaders, aspiring designers, and eager trainees. As she toured the facility, Catherine was struck by the possibilities. The center was equipped with state-of-the-art sewing machines, design software, and a small showroom where students could display their creations. Workshops were already underway, led by volunteers from Bliss Coacher's staff. In one room, a group of young women was learning how to sketch designs, their faces lighting up as they saw their ideas take shape on paper. In another room, a retired seamstress taught a class on fabric cutting, sharing decades of wisdom with her students. Catherine stopped to speak with a woman named Clara, a single mother of 3 who had enrolled in the program. "This place is a blessing," Clara said, her voice filled with emotion. "I've always loved sewing, but I never thought I'd have the chance to make a career out of it. Now I feel like I can finally provide a better life for my kids." Catherine squeezed her hand, feeling a lump form in her throat. "You're going to do amazing things, Clara. I have no doubt about that." As the foundation's work gained momentum, so did Bliss Coacher's reputation. The brand was no longer just known for its luxurious designs, but also for its commitment to social impact. Catherine was invited to speak at conferences and industry events, sharing her vision for a more inclusive and ethical fashion industry. One evening, after returning home from a particularly inspiring event, Catherine received an email that stopped her in her tracks. It was from Aisha, the customer who had written to her months earlier. "Dear Ms. Wilson," the email began, "I wanted to share some exciting news with you. After hearing about your foundation, I decided to pursue a dream I've had for years, starting my own line of handmade jewelry. Your story and the work you're doing inspired me to believe in myself, and I'm proud to say that my first collection will be launching next month. Thank you for showing me that anything is possible." Catherine leaned back in her chair, tears welling in her eyes. This was why she had started Bliss Couture, to create something that could touch lives in ways she hadn't even imagined. The following week, Catherine invited Aisha to the company's headquarters to meet in person. They spent hours discussing Aisha's vision for her jewelry line, with Catherine offering advice and encouragement. By the end of their meeting, Catherine made a decision that surprised even herself. "Aisha," she said with a smile, "how would you feel about partnering with Bliss Couture? We could feature your jewelry in our stores as part of a limited edition collection." Aisha's jaw dropped. "Are you serious?" "Absolutely," Catherine replied. "Your story and your work deserve to be celebrated, and I'd be honored to help share it with the world." As the partnership with Aisha took shape, Catherine couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. From the small-town girl who dreamed of fashion to the owner of a thriving brand, her journey had been anything but easy. But it was the challenges, the mistakes, and the moments of reckoning that had shaped her into the leader she was today. Catherine knew there would always be more work to do, more ways to grow, and more lives to touch. But for now, she felt a profound sense of gratitude for her team, her customers, and the countless people who had believed in her vision. Bliss Couture wasn't just a business, it was a legacy. And Catherine was determined to make it one that would endure for generations to come. A new chapter of empowerment. A year after the founding of the Bliss Foundation, Catherine Wilson stood before a packed auditorium at a global fashion conference in Paris. She had been invited as a keynote speaker, not only to discuss the success of Bliss Couture as a brand, but to share the deeper impact her company was making through its social initiatives. As she looked out at the crowd, a mix of industry leaders, aspiring designers, and journalists, Catherine felt a surge of pride. She hadn't set out to change the fashion world overnight, but the ripple effects of her work were undeniable. She began her speech with a story, one that had come full circle over the past year. "Last year," Catherine said, her voice steady and resonant, "I walked into one of my stores as an anonymous customer. I wanted to experience Bliss Couture the way any other shopper would. What I encountered was a stark reminder of how far we still had to go, not in our designs, but in the way we treated people." The audience listened intently as Catherine recounted the incident, omitting no details. She spoke of the humiliation she had felt, the disappointment in seeing her brand fail to live up to its promise, and the difficult conversations that followed. But what could have been a story of frustration and failure became a turning point, Catherine continued. It was a moment that forced me, and my entire team, to confront our shortcomings and commit to meaningful change. And that commitment has transformed not only our company, but the lives of so many people around the world. She went on to describe the Bliss Foundation's initiatives, the vocational training centers, the mentorship programs, and the partnerships with local artisans and entrepreneurs. Each project was rooted in the belief that fashion could be a force for good, a platform for empowerment and inclusion. Today, I'm proud to say that Bliss Couture is more than a brand. It's a movement, Catherine said, her voice rising with passion. And it's a movement fueled by stories of resilience, redemption, and the power of second chances. One of those stories belonged to Melissa, the former sales associate who had once been at the center of controversy. After her promotion to senior sales associate, Melissa had continued to excel, earning the respect of her colleagues and customers alike. But Melissa's journey didn't end there. Inspired by the foundation's work, she began volunteering at the vocational training centers in her free time, mentoring women who were learning the skills to enter the fashion industry. I never thought I'd be in a position to help others, Melissa admitted during an interview for Bliss Couture's internal newsletter. But this experience has shown me that growth is always possible. I've learned as much from the trainees as they've learned from me, and it's been one of the most rewarding parts of my career. Melissa's transformation became a symbol of what Bliss Couture stood for, not perfection, but progress. Her story inspired employees across the company to embrace their own opportunities for growth, creating a culture of accountability and support. Another remarkable story was that of Aisha, the jewelry designer whose work had been featured in a limited edition collection at Bliss Couture. The collection had been an overwhelming success, selling out within weeks and garnering praise from customers and critics alike. Aisha's partnership with Bliss Couture didn't end with the collection. Catherine offered her a permanent role as the head of a new division focused on collaborating with independent designers from diverse backgrounds. I want to give others the same chance that Bliss Couture gave me, Aisha said at the launch of the division. There are so many talented creators out there who just need a platform to shine. Together, we're going to build something truly special. Under Aisha's leadership, the division became a hub for innovation, introducing unique handcrafted pieces that celebrated cultural heritage and individual artistry. Customers loved the authenticity and stories behind the designs, and the division quickly became one of the most successful parts of the brand. Catherine's journey also led her to deepen her personal connection with the people her foundation was helping. She made it a point to visit the vocational centers regularly, often spending hours listening to the trainees' stories and offering words of encouragement. One such visit stood out in her memory. At a center in Detroit, Catherine met a woman named Maria, a former factory worker who had lost her job when the plant where she worked shut down. Maria had struggled for years to make ends meet, taking on multiple part-time jobs to support her 2 children. When I heard about the Bliss Vocational Center, I wasn't sure if it was real, Maria admitted during their conversation. It sounded too good to be true. Free training, a chance to learn new skills, and even help finding a job. But I decided to take a chance, and it's been the best decision I've ever made. Maria showed Catherine a dress she had designed and sewn during her training, a vibrant floral print gown inspired by her grandmother's garden in Puerto Rico. "This is beautiful, Maria," Catherine said, running her fingers over the fabric. "Have you ever thought about selling your designs?" Maria laughed nervously. "I wouldn't even know where to start." "Well," Catherine said with a smile, "we'll help you figure that out." Maria's designs were soon featured in a special collection at Bliss Couture, and the proceeds helped her launch her own small business. She later returned to the vocational center as a guest instructor, teaching others the skills that had changed her life. As Catherine finished her speech in Paris, the audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation. She smiled, humbled by their response, but knowing that her work was far from over. Bliss Couture was thriving. But for Catherine, success wasn't measured in sales or accolades. It was measured in the lives the brand had touched, the women who had found their voice, the employees who had embraced growth, and the customers who felt seen and valued. After the conference, Catherine returned to her hotel room and opened her laptop. She had received hundreds of emails following her speech, many of them from people who wanted to share their own stories or collaborate on future projects. One email, in particular, caught her eye. It was from a young woman named Elena, who had attended the vocational training program in Los Angeles. "Dear Ms. Wilson," the email began, "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done. Because of Bliss Couture, I'm now working as a designer for a local boutique, and I finally feel like I'm on the path to my dreams. You've given me and so many others the chance to believe in ourselves. I hope one day I can do for others what you've done for me." Catherine leaned back in her chair, a sense of fulfillment washing over her. The journey she had embarked on years ago was no longer just her own. It was a shared journey, one that connected her with countless others who were building their dreams alongside her. Bliss Couture wasn't just a brand or a business. It was a legacy of empowerment, one that Catherine hoped would continue to grow long after she was gone. And as she closed her laptop and gazed out at the city lights, she felt more determined than ever to keep pushing forward, to keep creating, inspiring, and changing lives. The story of Bliss Couture wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning.